everybody. Chris McCabe of e-commerce. Chris back with another suspension trend. And this is a pretty big one. It's a big mistake I see a lot of people making where they're kind of doing a spray and pray strategy, I guess, with appeals and escalations. They get some emails to Amazon executives or maybe senior or even mid-level management, and they start emailing everyone, kind of spamming them, hoping to get a different result just based on the quantity of people they're contacting. But as evidenced by conversations I've had with people at Amazon, whether at conferences or privately, you're just kind of rubbing them the wrong way, and you're harming your case more than helping it. If you've got, especially if you have a track record of extremely basic or unprofessionally written or composed appeals that have already been rejected, and if they do happen to go in the account or read the annotations, they start seeing some of the poor quality past appeals, and maybe they pull the plug at that point and don't even bother continuing. But they might already be biased against you if they kind of see things that reaffirm the notion that you should have been denied, your appeals shouldn't have been accepted, or in some cases that you're trying to dispute whether or not you did something, you broke some policies, listing policies, behavioral policies, code of conduct, whatever it might be. They might start with a bias against you if they see a lot of appeals that were off topic, overly emotional, weak language, generic language, clear AI written or copy and paste templates. Those shouldn't even appear in regular appeals because they don't have much chance of succeeding, let alone an escalation. An escalation, in theory, you're asking a human being who's highly placed in the company to use human eyes and their own brain to decide what needs to happen next with your account or with your ASINs. And there's a lot of money at stake. There could be the whole account health of your business at stake. And maybe if you're looking at permanent deactivation, everything could be at stake. So that's the opposite of the right time to submit something generic or something that's amateurish or rookie level. I'm surprised at how often I still see that, because I think this is just common logic and common sense. We're just seeing a tendency for people to reach out to leadership teams, maybe even ask for a call from escalation teams, which sometimes they won't send you a written response. They will call you, but they're not prepared for that call. They've either sent in weak content or they've only told part of the story in the appeal. Don't forget, if they can poke holes in any of your arguments, or if they can point to any one thing you forgot or didn't emphasize that you should have emphasized, that undermines the entire escalation, right? They only need one reason to ignore you. And if they haven't read it at all, then they don't really need any reasons to ignore you. But you can use that in your next escalation. You can say, we already did an escalation. That was ignored. We got another generic response. Here's the date. Here's the name we saw in the email. Or again, if it's a phone call, you capture the name of the person and you bring that to their attention, because that is what a true escalation is and how you really do it. You don't just regurgitate the same rejected content you sent them before. You don't send them a copy and paste plan of action. They rarely ask for a plan of action. At this point, that just makes it look like you hired the wrong person who didn't know what they were doing. I don't know, just because you didn't feel like dealing with it yourself, or they charged something a lot lower than somebody like me might charge. But in other words, you didn't feel like doing your homework. You didn't want to be bothered and you didn't care. Well, if you're asking for somebody in management or executive level to look at something, if you come across as a disinterested business owner, or you kind of don't care what the fate of your brand is on Amazon, that gives them a really good reason not to delegate it to one of their direct report managers, not to take it seriously, not to spend time on it, not to send you a personal reply. And some escalations do generate a copy and paste answer and a denial that you'd get from anywhere. That is true. Doesn't mean the entire escalation process is faulty. It means that there are good escalations and bad escalations, and you're in one bucket, you're in the other bucket. Well, don't just volunteer to jump into the bucket where you'll be ignored and disrespected, not taken seriously, put out to pasture. So many people are doing that just out of sloppiness or hastiness. It could be panic. If you're the type who panics when you have to appeal something big on your account, maybe it means you shouldn't be handling that appeal. Maybe you should be working with somebody who does it every day. But you also have to do some due diligence in terms of, why was the last appeal rejected? What's the basis of my escalation? Do I know how to do an escalation? Have I done one before that was successful? Is it concise? How factual was I? What kind of evidence or examples did they want? They're very in love with this concept of asking for examples of things, documents, factual information. I can't tell you how many brands are failing in the appeals process or wasting escalations on potentially good escalation targets, completely burning those bridges by leaving out factual info, by sending in generic content, sending in something that was obviously written by AI just because they didn't feel like doing it. Again, that's potentially a knee-jerk reaction you have when you're talking about AI tools all day or you're in these masterminds or WhatsApp groups. But what's much better and much more successful is presenting a timeline of events you clearly put some time, effort, and attention to. Nothing off topic is there. You're laying out what the dates were that you appealed previously, what you included in those appeals. It does not need to be 5 or 6 pages long. Most people I see can do this in a page or a page and a half, and they don't have to embed all of their evidence in a screenshot in the email. They could potentially attach it as a side document. So strategy matters. Having a well-structured appeal definitely matters. And consider the audience. Consider, is somebody going to spend time reading this, carve out part of their day to help me with this problem? Am I talking about how much revenue I've lost and how they've asked me for certain key pieces of information, and I've provided it, but there was no outcome, no result? Questions on this, appeals, escalations, and of course, if you're thinking of spamming a bunch of executives with the exact same appeal, just hoping that the quantity will make up for your lack of quality. If you've got questions on that, you want to have a conversation, definitely look us up and get us into a Zoom or a call, because that is a major mistake that could cost you a lot of money and potentially your whole account. Thanks for listening in. We'll catch you next time.